The debris of the once proud fleet drifted in eerie silence. Xyler, a battle-hardened officer of the Zalorian Dominion, floated through the wreckage, his armored suit barely disturbing the scattered remains of what had been a formidable armada. His gaze was fixed on the twisted metal and shattered hulls of the alien vessels that now lay in ruin, victims of a conflict they had been ill prepared for. "Admiral Xyler," came a voice crackling over the comms. Yara, his closest subordinate, appeared on his display, her face etched with concern. "We've lost contact with the remaining ships. The humans' tactics were unprecedented." Xyler grunted in acknowledgement, his gaze sweeping over the vast expanse of destruction. "Understatement of the year," he muttered, his voice tinged with a mix of frustration and respect. "Their strategies were beyond anything we anticipated." The Alien Command Center's message had been clear: engage the humans in a standard engagement, neutralize the threat. What had ensued was a catastrophe. The humans had not only survived but had retaliated with a ferocity and cunning that left the Zalorians reeling. He adjusted his visor, focusing on a partially intact data core among the debris. As he approached, the core flickered to life, displaying fragmented images of the recent battle. The screen showed humans executing complex maneuvers and deploying unknown technologies, strategies that defied conventional warfare protocols. "This technology," Xyler said, almost to himself. "It's unlike anything we've ever encountered. How did they?" The answer came as a sudden burst of static. The command center's commander, General Volker, interjected with an edge of skepticism. "Xyler, you're not suggesting these humans outwitted us entirely, are you? They're nothing more than primitive warriors with delusions of grandeur." Xyler's eyes narrowed. "General Volker, their tactics were anything but primitive. We underestimated them, and now we're paying the price." The general's dismissive tone grated on Xyler's nerves. "You've always been too quick to admire your foes, Xyler. Focus on the facts. What do we know about their technology?" Xyler scrolled through the data, revealing human vessels equipped with advanced shielding and weaponry. "Their technology is highly adaptive. They utilize unconventional methods that our systems struggle to counter." As he spoke, a low-frequency hum echoed through the debris field. Xyler's sensors picked up an unusual energy signature emanating from a nearby wreck. He maneuvered closer, curiosity piqued. The energy signature pulsed rhythmically, hinting at a hidden device. "Yara, keep the general informed. I'm going to investigate a potential lead." The distress signal had been a desperate plea for help from a ship presumed lost. Xyler followed the energy trail to its source, a human escape pod, its hull scorched but intact. Inside, a lone survivor, a human officer, struggled to free themselves from the wreckage. Xyler approached cautiously. The human, noticing the alien presence, looked up with a mixture of defiance and exhaustion. "Don't bother. We're done here." "Not yet," Xyler replied, his voice firm but not unkind. "Tell me how you managed to outmaneuver us." The human officer, bloodied but resolute, met Xyler's gaze. "You think you've seen the worst of us? This is just the beginning." As Xyler prepared to extract information, the gravity of their situation settled over him. The humans were not just a new enemy, they were a formidable force that had shattered the Zalorians' preconceived notions of warfare. The realization was as jarring as the battlefield's silence, and it left Xyler with a chilling sense of what lay ahead. The Zalorian command ship, Eclipse, loomed like a metallic behemoth against the backdrop of space, its once pristine hull now marred by battle scars. Inside its dimly lit war room, Admiral Xyler convened with his senior officers. The room hummed with a tense energy, punctuated only by the occasional beep of a monitor or the distant clank of metal. "Admiral, we've completed the analysis of the human's escape pod," Yara announced, her voice betraying a rare hint of uncertainty. "The device we recovered has been identified as a high-level data transmitter." Xyler's sharp gaze met hers, his expression a mix of curiosity and irritation. "So, they were sending more than just a distress signal. What was their intention?" Yara tapped a few commands on her console, projecting a holographic display of the intercepted transmission. The image flickered, revealing a series of encoded messages. It's hard to decipher, but it seems they were coordinating a counterattack. The Admiral's eyes narrowed. Counterattack? Against what? A gruff voice cut through the tension. General Volker entered, his imposing figure casting a long shadow. Xyler, you're wasting time on this. The humans are a threat, but they're not our only concern. We need to focus on the broader strategic picture. Xyler turned to face the general, his frustration evident. And what's the broader picture, Volker? Our forces have been decimated. The humans' tactics have proven to be exceptionally effective. Ignoring them will only lead to more losses. Volker's eyes flashed with irritation. The Council's orders are clear. We're to prepare for the next phase of our campaign, not get bogged down by the whims of a single species. Then perhaps you're not seeing the full scope, Xyler retorted. The humans are not merely a nuisance. They are a tactical enigma that could tip the scales of this war. The argument was interrupted by an urgent beep from one of the consoles. Yara glanced at it, her face paling. Admiral, we've detected an unauthorized transmission coming from a nearby system. It's human. Xyler's heart raced as he examined the data. Where is it coming from? It's originating from a settlement on the edge of the Alaric system, Yara replied. It's a civilian sector, but the signal is strong. They're broadcasting on frequencies we haven't seen before. Prepare a reconnaissance team, Xyler ordered. We need to investigate immediately. As the Eclipse approached the Alaric system, the ship's sleek silhouette cut through the darkness. Xyler and Yara stood in the command center, their eyes fixed on the view screen. The settlement appeared as a cluster of lights against the void, seemingly peaceful. We've arrived, Yara said, her fingers deftly adjusting the controls. Launching reconnaissance probes now. The probes deployed silently, their sensors scanning the settlement for any signs of unusual activity. The view screen displayed real-time data. The settlement was bustling with activity, but nothing out of the ordinary, until the probes detected an underground facility. There's a hidden complex beneath the settlement, Yara reported. It's heavily shielded and appears to be transmitting encoded signals. Xyler's mind raced. This could be the key to understanding their new tactics. We need to investigate the facility. A team of elite Silurian operatives descended to the surface, moving swiftly and silently. They infiltrated the facility, navigating a labyrinth of corridors until they reached a central control room. Inside, they found a makeshift command center buzzing with activity. The human officer from the escape pod, now in civilian attire, was at the center of it all. He was surrounded by a group of technicians working on various devices. His eyes met Xyler's, filled with a blend of defiance and urgency. So, you've come to see what we're up to, the human officer said, his voice carrying a trace of irony. Welcome to our little command post. Xyler stepped forward, his demeanor imposing. Explain this operation. The human officer smirked. You're quick to adapt, but you're still behind. We're coordinating a network of resistance cells across the galaxy. We've managed to outmaneuver you at every turn, and we intend to keep it that way. Xyler's eyes widened. You've been organizing a widespread counteroffensive? The officer nodded. That's right. And this facility is just one part of a much larger plan. As Xyler absorbed the gravity of the situation, he realized the humans' resilience was more than just a tactical advantage. It was a coordinated effort to challenge the Zalorian Dominion on multiple fronts. The stakes had risen dramatically, and the road ahead promised to be fraught with new and unforeseen challenges. The Zalorian command ship Eclipse drifted silently above the Alaric system, its once brilliant hull now a dull gray, reflecting the somber mood within. In the war room, Admiral Xyler stood at the viewport, his gaze fixed on the cluster of stars beyond. The gravity of the situation weighed heavily on him. The hidden resistance network was not just a minor complication, it was a serious threat. Admiral, the facility is still operational, Yara reported, her fingers dancing across the control panel. The humans appear to be reinforcing their defenses. They're aware of our presence and are preparing for a possible breach. Xyler turned sharply. We can't afford to be cautious. If we hesitate, they'll fortify further and make our task impossible. Prepare the assault team. We need to capture that facility and uncover its full capabilities. Yara nodded, her face set with determination. Understood. I'll coordinate with the ground forces. As the Zalorian troops mobilized, Xyler convened with his senior officers. General Volker, still bristling from their previous argument, joined the meeting. This is a waste of time, Xyler, Volker said gruffly. We should be focusing on the main front, not a small resistance cell. Xyler's eyes flared with frustration. You still don't grasp the gravity of this. These resistance cells are a coordinated effort. If we let this one slip through our fingers, it will embolden others and potentially unravel our entire campaign. The general's scowl deepened, but he did not argue further. Fine. What's the plan? Xyler detailed the strategy. We'll use our assault forces to breach the facility's outer defenses. Once inside, we'll need to locate and neutralize their command structure. Yara will provide tactical support from the command ship. As Xyler's team descended to the surface, they moved with precision. The night was eerily quiet, with only the distant hum of machinery and the occasional whisper of the wind. The hidden facility was nestled in a cavernous underground space, its entrance heavily guarded by automated defenses. The perimeter is secure. Xyler's second-in-command, Lieutenant Kale, reported through the comms. We're ready to breach. Proceed, Xyler ordered. With a series of controlled explosions, the team shattered the outer defenses. The facility's alarms blared, a cacophony of red lights flashing as the Zalorians pressed forward. The corridors were stark and utilitarian, the air thick with the scent of ozone and the metallic tang of fear. Inside the command center, the human officer from before, Captain Dean, was already preparing for their arrival. His expression was a mix of grim resolve and calculated calm. Captain Dean, Xyler's voice echoed through the hallway as he and his team approached. You've been quite the thorn in our side. Dean's eyes met Xyler's with a steely gaze. We're not backing down. This facility is critical to our operations. We've coordinated resistance movements across multiple sectors. You can't just dismantle it. Xyler's face hardened. You're outnumbered and outgunned. Surrender now, and we might spare your lives. Dean's lips twitched into a sardonic smile. Spare us? You don't understand. This isn't about saving lives, it's about saving a future. We're fighting for more than just survival. As the confrontation escalated, Xyler's team pushed forward, breaking through internal defenses. The command center was a flurry of activity, technicians scrambling to protect their data and systems. A fierce battle ensued, the clash of weapons and shouts echoing through the cavernous space. Hold the line! Xyler shouted over the comms, his voice cutting through the chaos. We need to capture Dean and secure the data. Despite their advanced technology, the Zalorians found themselves challenged by the humans' resourcefulness. Makeshift traps and clever tactics slowed their advance, but Xyler's determination never wavered. He and his team fought with a combination of precision and brute force, pushing deeper into the facility. Finally, Xyler and his squad cornered Dean in the central control room. The room was a maze of consoles and screens, each displaying encrypted data and real-time updates from various resistance cells. This ends here, Xyler declared, aiming his weapon at Dean. Dean's eyes burned with defiance. You might capture me, but you'll never capture the spirit of resistance. The network will continue, and new leaders will rise. The struggle was intense, but Xyler's superior numbers and strategy eventually prevailed. Dean was subdued, and the facility's control was secured. As the remaining resistance members were rounded up, Xyler stood in the control room, surveying the captured data with a grim sense of accomplishment. Admiral, Yara's voice crackled through the comms. We've intercepted communications indicating that Dean was only one part of a larger network. There are more cells scattered across the galaxy. Xyler's face tightened as he absorbed the news. Then this is only the beginning. We've struck a blow, but the fight is far from over. As the Zalorians prepared to leave the facility, The weight of their victory was tempered by the knowledge that the resistance was more extensive and resilient than they had anticipated. The conflict had grown more complex, and Xyler knew that the path ahead would be fraught with new and daunting challenges. The massive Zalorian warship Eclipse hovered silently above the planet's surface, its imposing silhouette casting a dark shadow over the landscape. Inside the command chamber, Admiral Xyler's face was etched with frustration as he reviewed the latest intelligence reports. The Resistance network was not only resilient but had also begun orchestrating coordinated strikes against their forces across multiple sectors. "Admiral," Yara's voice cut through the tense silence. "We've intercepted a communication from the Resistance. They're planning a major offensive in the Pixis sector. If they succeed, they could cripple our supply lines." Xyler's jaw tightened. "They're more organized than we anticipated. We need to act quickly." General Volker entered the room, his presence as imposing as ever. "We're ready to deploy additional forces. What's the plan?" Xyler glanced at the map displayed on the holoscreen, which depicted the Pixis sector with various markers indicating strategic targets. "We'll launch a preemptive strike to dismantle their command centers and disrupt their logistics. We can't let them gain the upper hand." Volker nodded, but his expression remained skeptical. "You're risking a lot with this move. We could expose ourselves to counterattacks." "This is not just a gamble, General. It's a necessity," Xyler replied. "Their network's efficiency is growing, and if we don't neutralize their capabilities, our entire campaign is at risk." Meanwhile, on the surface, Captain Dean, now a prisoner aboard the Eclipse, was undergoing an intense interrogation. The room was stark, illuminated only by the harsh, fluorescent lights that cast long shadows on the walls. Dean, bruised but defiant, sat restrained in a chair, his eyes focused on his interrogator, a seasoned Zalorian officer named Rax. "You'll never break us," Dean said through gritted teeth. "Our network is too deep. Even if you destroy this base, others will take its place." Rax's gaze was cold and unyielding. "You underestimate our resolve. Tell us where the next strike will occur, or face the consequences." Dean remained silent, his expression a mask of grim determination. He knew that revealing information could lead to a tactical disadvantage, but he also understood the dire situation his comrades faced. In the midst of the interrogation, the ship's alarms blared, signaling the imminent launch of their assault. Xyler's voice crackled through the comms, commanding his forces to prepare for battle. "All units, launch sequence initiated. Engage with full force and secure the Pixis sector." The Zalorian warships and ground forces mobilized swiftly, their movements synchronized with deadly precision. As they descended upon the Pixis sector, the landscape below was a mix of industrial installations and military outposts, all bathed in the eerie glow of alien technology. The Resistance forces, despite their preparedness, were caught off guard by the sudden onslaught. The Zalorian ships unleashed a barrage of energy blasts, their destructive power carving through the defenses with ruthless efficiency. Ground troops moved in, clashing with the beleaguered Resistance fighters in fierce combat. Amid the chaos, Xyler and his elite squad made their way to the command center of the Resistance's operations. The facility was a hive of activity, the hum of machinery and the clatter of weapons creating a symphony of conflict. Xyler's team fought their way through, each step bringing them closer to their target. Inside the command center, Captain Dean's communicator crackled to life, a faint voice coming through. "Captain, this is Lieutenant Mara. We're under heavy attack. We need immediate assistance." Dean's heart raced as he heard the desperation in Mara's voice. He knew the Resistance was outmatched, but abandoning his comrades was not an option. Straining against his restraints, Dean made a crucial decision. In a desperate bid to help his people, Dean broke free from his restraints using a hidden blade he had managed to conceal. He seized a weapon from a nearby guard and fought his way through the chaos to reach the command center's emergency broadcast system. His fingers flew over the controls as he sent a distress signal to the remaining Resistance cells. Xyler, already deep within the command center, witnessed the unexpected resistance. "What's happening?" he barked at his subordinates. Yara's voice came through, tense and urgent. Admiral, the Resistance has mobilized additional forces. It's a coordinated counterattack. The intensity of the battle escalated as Resistance fighters, reinvigorated by Dean's desperate message, launched a fierce counteroffensive. The Zalorian forces, though superior in technology and firepower, faced unexpected and determined resistance. The command center was a battleground of clashing energies and shouts, the fate of the sector hanging in the balance. Amid the turmoil, Xyler's frustration mounted. The Resistance's resilience and tactical ingenuity were proving formidable. The control room, once a beacon of Zalorian dominance, was now a contested zone, the tide of battle shifting unpredictably. In a final, desperate push, Xyler's forces managed to overpower the Resistance defenders, securing the command center. The facility was heavily damaged, but the key data and intelligence had been seized. Xyler, though victorious, surveyed the wreckage with a grim expression. "This isn't over," he said, turning to his team. "The Resistance will regroup and counterattack. We've dealt them a blow, but their spirit is undiminished." As the Zalorian forces began to withdraw, the shattered remnants of the Resistance were left to pick up the pieces. Captain Dean, now captured once more, looked out over the battlefield with a sense of profound loss. Despite the victory, the conflict was far from over. The Resistance was not defeated, and Xyler knew that the struggle for control would continue, with each side growing more determined. The stakes had risen, and the future of the galaxy hung precariously in the balance.